Hey there, Dungeon Crawl fans. Welcome back to Dungeon Crawlers Anonymous. My name is Ron, and today we're going to be learning how to play Altar Quest. We're going to be starting with this video, which is going to teach you all how to set up this game for 2 players. This is a 1 to 4 player fully cooperative game, but we're going to be setting it up for 2 right now, just because I think that'll show you kind of everything you need. The setup really isn't different between 1 and 4, other than you have more heroes, but this way you'll kind of see what it looks like in a typical scenario. So I'm going to be following along with the setup instructions that are on page, I believe it is 9, starting on the rulebook here, 8. On the rulebook, I'm going to go through these steps one by one until we get it all set up and show you visually how to get this game going. So that said, let's get started with number 1, which is placing the game board. All right, and once you get that beautiful Hero Quest-esque game board all set up, you can orient it however you want. Just make sure it's in the middle of the table. You're going to be creating player areas next to the board, as well as kind of a threat or enemy area and a quest area. This game does take up quite a bit of space. I'm not going to be able to show you everything all at once, I don't think, just based on the limitations of my setup. Make sure you got space all around the board for all these different things. Then we're going to go to step 2, which is choose and set up heroes. So each hero is going to pick a hero deck that they want. They're going to pull out the equipment and the character card from that deck. We're going to shuffle the deck, and then you're going to get your turn card, your action tokens, and draw your initial hand of cards. The first character we're going to set up here is Duval. So this is her character card, which shows a whole bunch of information. It shows her armor, her health, her attributes for skill checks, what her range is. Specifically, that's going to be for this this ability down here. This is kind of her special power. So you're going to take her character card, go ahead and set it down on the table, and then any equipment cards that they have are going to come out equipped on your character. So Marine here is going to start with Spike Shield and Marine's Blade, and those will go just right next to her character card here. And then on their deck, you're going to find a bunch of these cards with these gold kind of borders in the center. Most of them are going to be silver, and then some of them are going to have this gold. These are upgrade cards, and these are only going to be used for the campaign. So these you can take and actually return back to the box, so that all you have is a deck of your character's silver normal abilities. Go ahead and give that a shuffle. You're going to want to be more thorough than me right now, and then draw 4 cards to start. You're also going to want to make sure that each player has one of these hero, turn, and threat, villain, and quest turn trackers. They not only have a bunch of really nice, helpful information for you to have, but also just help serve as a way for you to signify that you've taken your turn by flipping your card over, and then helping you walk through those steps of the threat, villain, and quest turn when it comes to those. So make sure each player has one of these so that you can track who's gone and who hasn't. Make sure you grab your hero miniature as well, and for right now you're just going to want to put that next to all the rest of your hero stuff, and then once you've decided where you'll be beginning the game, you'll be able to put your miniature out on the board. You're also going to want to grab 3 action tokens here to signify your actions for the turn. They are double-sided. The dark side means that you've taken one of those actions, so in this case I would have taken none of my actions, then I can easily track which actions I've taken. Go ahead and set those aside next to your hero, and your hero's all set up. So I know I said I was going to do 2 characters, but I've actually decided just to do 1, simply because there's no real difference between setting up 1 character and setting up 4. You just do it 4 times instead of 1 time, and the turns don't really change all that much. So to be totally honest with you, I'm just going to show you 1 character because that's going to be easier for me, and you won't need to see all that stuff twice. So in that case, once everyone's done those last steps, getting their character deck and everything set up, you're going to do the quest. Now, before you move too far beyond this step, notice at the bottom here, there's a little call out for your first game, recommending that in your first game, you choose the Frox threat deck, the Bulks villain deck, and the Search quest deck. And then they let you know that all 4 characters should be perfectly playable for your first game, and that you should play with only 1 or 2 in your first game, just to make sure that you guys get all the rules down before you're getting your full group going. So we're going to go ahead and just do everything as if we were setting up our first game, because we kind of are. We're going to set up the Search quest. So let me grab that, and then we'll walk through those steps. So the quest that we're going to be doing is the search, and in this case, all of these cards, there's a whole bunch of cards for the deck, and then there's one sort of setup and rules card. So we start with the setup side. There's some flavor text you can read to kind of get yourself in the mood for what you're doing. You're searching for some sort of ancient relic in this case, and then there's some important notes about setup. Now, in this particular quest, the setup is that first of all, there's some rules on how we do the feature deck, which we'll come back to. And then the second part of this is to find all of the clue cards in this deck and separate them out from the rest of the deck. So I've already kind of done that in that I've gotten, let's see here, all of these clues. That looks like a clue as well. So we've got all these clues. The clues have full color art, and the other search quest cards do not. And you're going to create two decks, basically. You're creating a clue deck here, and then you're going to be creating your quest deck. Now, for this particular quest, I'm not going to go into too much detail, and I won't be explaining any other quests, mostly because I haven't played them. But in this case, you've got this deck of cards, which is going to attach themselves to the features as you explore the different rooms of the dungeon. And then you have this deck here, which is a clue deck. And in this quest, you are trying to find two clues that match. And once you have a matching pair of clues, you'll be able to go to the altar and complete the quest. So just so you know, I actually started without looking at this stuff, and I didn't really understand what I was trying to do until I got partway through my first game. Probably would have been smarter to just at least familiarize myself with what I'm looking at here. So there's a few different pairs. We've got the scrolls, we've got the map, we've got the shards, and the fabric. And then there's a few other cards in here, some events that can happen that are medium in terms of maybe bad or good happening to you, but they often let you kind of rearrange the other cards in this deck to help you find a match. So get these really nicely shuffled up so that you're looking for those pairs. And then you're going to create a quest area where you have your quest card flipped to the rules side. And in the case of the search, I've got my clue deck here and my search quest deck here. You're also going to want to go ahead and grab these quest tokens that you'll be needing to mark your progress on the quest. In this case, with only one player, we only really need one token because all we're trying to do is get one quest token per player on this card. And once we've done that, we'll be able to move to the next, we'll be able to end the game. And it's, for the sake of setup though, you're probably going to need different amounts of these for every quest that you do. So just set these near your quest area just as so that you have them as they come up. So make sure you have some room here to place other cards besides just these ones as stuff comes out. The next step is to shuffle and choose an altar card and draw it and place it in the quest area as well. So let's go ahead and do that. The base game comes with 6 altar cards. They're all different. They all have different, special kind of overall rules and then an ability that can be activated on them when you're in the room with them. So go ahead and shuffle those up and draw one. And we're going to be playing with the Storm Altar. So we'll set that over here in our quest area. All right, the next step here says to refer to the setup card for the quest and follow the rest of the setup effect. So in this case, that's building the feature deck, which we already talked about, and then doing this setup with the clue cards. So we did that a little early, basically because in step 1 it says to go ahead and set up the quest deck. So, and then we'll come back when we do the feature setup and we'll do the rest of the setup on this card. The next step is to choose the threat deck and prepare figures. So we're going to be playing with the Frocks quest deck, or threat deck. So I went ahead and grabbed that. And one of the cards is actually going to be an informational card that tells you how to use your threat tokens and gives you some flavor text about the particular threat that you're going to be fighting against. So in this case, this lets us know that the threat tokens for these threats represent the poisonous sludge-like substance that Frocks use to subdue their foes. And it lets you know how to use those threat tokens that are going to be handed out by cards, both the villain as well as these as you play through the adventure. So go ahead and give your Frocks deck a shuffle. This deck has all the different types of threats you're going to be facing, different types of miniatures, events, and of course some nasty traps as well. Give that a nice thorough shuffle. And then I've been setting everything up over to the side of my game board. I will show you what this area looks like when it's completed, just so you guys can see it. The game recommends getting all the miniatures out and pre-ringing all of them with the different colors. You can do that if you need to. You can do it as they come out, kind of as I mentioned in my box tour video. The way I've been doing it with multiple players is just Each player has kind of a color, and you get assigned that color. If that's wrong, or that somehow messes up some other rule of the game, I haven't discovered it yet. The game does recommend you just pre-do it so that each minion has a different colored ring, and that you set up all the minions beforehand so that as they get called out, you can pick them, you can add them. I'm not sure why this isn't. There we go. You can add them to the board. In this case, I just leave them in the really nice storage sleeves, the plastic vacuform tray, and just as I need the miniatures, I'll pull them out. And so you can do whichever works for you. This helps keep it a little cleaner, and it doesn't take that long to get the miniatures out, of course. The threat deck is going to supply threat tokens as well as trap tokens occasionally, depending on what cards you draw out of the threat deck. So they recommend that you go ahead and keep these tokens near the threat deck so that you have them handy when they come out. Step 5 here is to choose our villain deck. Now, you're going to have 3 choices in terms of which villain you want to choose. We're going to be choosing Brox, I think his name is, the Belch Lord, so we'll get him all set up. My apologies, it's Bulks the Belch Lord, who is the leader of the Frocks. That's a little confusing for me, but that's okay, I'll get it down. So Bulks the Belch Lord, you're going to want to go ahead and grab the villain deck for the villain that you're going to be playing, and one of those cards is going to be a double-sided villain card. One side is going to be the scheme, and the other side is going to be the villain himself. Now you want to start with the scheme side of the card face up, because that's going to explain kind of like, 1, it gives you some nice flavor text, but 2, it's basically like what the villain is doing while he's sort of looming in the background. You haven't found him yet. And you're going to be going through their deck here, which is different types of events and stuff that kind of get you in the flavor of this particular villain, let you know that you're in his lair. So when you're creating that villain area, you're going to want to take this villain card with the scheme side up, and you're going to want to put that down, shuffle their villain deck, make sure it's nice and shuffled, and then place that right next to it. So you're basically going to have a threat area and then a villain area kind of right next to that, so that as you go through the different phases of the game, everything's kind of where they logically need to be. You can also get out the villain miniature and set him nearby if you want to intimidate the other players and yourself as you're making your way through the dungeon. Especially with this guy, he is quite large, or you can leave him in the box, up to you. Step 6 of setup is preparing tokens and other miniatures. So now you're going to want to create token pools for everything else: armor, damage, progress, focus, supply, and search tokens, and then place them feature miniatures and door miniatures near the game board. Again, I didn't actually get all the features out of the box. I left them all in the trays and just pulled them out when I need them, and that's kind of what I'd recommend doing as well, just because this game already takes up quite a bit of space on the table, especially when you have more than one character, and definitely in play as this quest area gets a little more complicated. But do whatever works for you, obviously. The other tokens you can just pile up and keep nearby as you need them. Step 7 is going to be preparing the other final card decks to get the game ready to go: the search deck, the feature deck, and the lurker deck. First, go ahead and grab those search cards, give them a good shuffle, and then place them near the board where everybody can reach them. Now it's time to set up that feature deck, and as you'll remember here for the search, we actually have some special rules. So this card says, when building the feature deck, shuffle together the altar found card and 2 other feature cards and place them at the bottom of the feature deck. Remove each clue card. We did everything else there, so everything after that we were done with. But for this feature deck, there are 8 cards and there are 8 features, and there's always going to be, from what I understand anyway, at least in the base game, there's going to be these 8 cards in that deck. There may be more or less. You're going to take 7 feature cards and the altar found card, shuffle them together. That's how you normally do this setup. In this case, we're going to set aside the altar found card. We'll grab 2 other features, and then we'll shuffle those together. So we don't know where the altar is. It's somewhere near the bottom in the last 3 cards of the feature deck. And then we will place the rest of the feature cards on top of that, creating a special feature deck for this scenario. Go ahead and set that near the search cards and the rest of your cards that you've been setting up for the game. Lastly, you have these spooky lurker cards. These represent different wandering monsters that you might encounter as you explore the dungeon. They're basically monsters from other faction types, as well as maybe misguided versions of some of the allies you might find in the game, etc. They're dangerous villains that need to be dealt with, although they're not quite as powerful, obviously, as the main villain. Go ahead and give those a nice shuffle, and then set them next to the board with all the rest of those cards. All right, we're finally ready to get started. We're going to begin the quest, step 8. We're going to choose a room and place the stair tiles in that room's feature space, placing each hero figure on that tile. The figure space here, as you can see, is kind of very specifically designed, and we'll see in the game how to use these, but it's basically determined, it's showing you how to set up the feature based on how many spaces it takes up, if it only takes up 1 space, 2, or all 4. In this case, the stairs tile is 2 by 2, so we're just going to pick a room on the board. Let's go ahead and pick this one right here, since it's the closest, and we'll place it so that it's right over top of that feature icon. We'll do that, and then we'll go ahead and finally place our hero miniatures out on the board. And now we're ready to get started. So you set up your doors here. So now we have 3 different ways we can go and explore. And this first room is essentially an open room that we've entered. Once you're done with step 8 and you've got everybody out on the tile and ready to go, you're actually ready to start playing the game. You can start taking actions, exploring the dungeon, killing monsters, collecting loot, and hopefully figuring out what's going on with this quest and solving it before somebody falls over dead. I wanted to go ahead and show you how I set up the threat and these other decks here, just so you can see. So here's the threat deck as well as the card that explains it, the villain deck in the villain card with the scheme side up, then we have the search card deck, the feature deck, and the lurker deck. It's important to have all these decks available because you'll be drawing cards from them semi-regularly, especially the threat deck as you play the game. Well guys, that's it. That's how you set up Altar Quest. It's really not that complicated. Basically, find a hero, get their cards separated out, find the quest that you want to do, follow the quest instructions, shuffle a bunch of decks, make sure your feature deck is set up correctly, pick where you want to go, and then get started doing your dungeon crawl. That's just one of many things I really like about this game. It's fast. It's fast to get on the table, it's fast to play, it's very enjoyable. I can't wait to show you how it plays, which is what we're going to be doing in the next set of videos that I'll be doing. So we'll be kicking off with Marine right here in this room, getting ready to do that search adventure, and we'll do at least a few turns so you guys can see how the game plays. Hey look, I'm super new to this, and I hate to come in here and ask you guys for likes and subs and stuff like that, but it does let me know that you guys are enjoying the content. It does help me know what you're into, and especially more than anything else, please leave a comment on the video. I want to talk to everybody that's interested in these videos. I love chatting, and I will do my best to respond to you if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, or if you just want to stop by and say hello. Thanks so much for stopping by, you guys, and we'll see you soon for some gameplay vids. Until then, stay safe in that dungeon.